Hey guys, welcome to another episode where we make games and program. Well, actually, and hack and program. But today's video is going to be not about programming and not about making games or hacking. So a lot of you wanted to know, or some of you wanted to know, how to install things and how to use Linux. So today we are kind of starting a new, I want to say project, but just starting a new something. And we're going to be looking into installing Linux. What flavor of Linux are we going to be installing? It's going to be Debian based, either Ubuntu and or Kali Linux. I like using both Kali Linux and Ubuntu, so maybe we'll do both. We'll see. If you haven't noticed, I've got a new mic. I can actually show you guys right here. And a new webcam that you're actually looking at me through, or whatever. Let me know how the sound sounds and how the picture looks. This is my first video using these new tools. So let's go ahead and jump into over here. Hey, you can still see me. So this is actually kind of cool because it's recording everything in the video and the desktop all in one. Where before I was actually using my phone to record everything, and then I would have to, in post-processing or whatever, I would have to pretty much make sure that my audio and video synced together, which wasn't that great. That's why recently you haven't really seen me or my face. You've only seen the desktop. And that's primarily because it's just tedious trying to sync, two different files. Yeah. Anyway. So, the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're not going to be installing Linux in a computer. Not as your primary boot operating system or bootable operating system. We are going to be using something called a virtual box or a virtual machine. I like VirtualBox because I've used that for as long as it's been available. Before that, I used to use Windows Virtual Machine, which they just I don't know if they sold it or they just stopped doing things, but Microsoft, I guess, has that tendency to make something and then all of a sudden, I guess, it just drops it, which it's a shame. I don't know if they actually sold it to Oracle, which this is the virtual box that we have here. But if you don't have that, we just gotta do a little Google search, and it's gonna be the first one right here and the second one. So go ahead and click there, and we are gonna go and download for Windows hosts. If you are using something other than Windows, then you are gonna choose whatever operating system you want. But since I have Windows currently installed as my primary machine, I am going to use this one. I don't really have to download and install since I already have it, but yeah. It's a pretty fast install. It's pretty easy. Just follow the prompts that it gives you. And actually, I'll leave it there, I guess. It doesn't matter. But once you have it installed, go ahead and open it. And you're going to get this minus these two boxes, obviously. And what we now have to do is we have to go and download our operating system. The cool thing about Linux is that it's free and open source. So we don't have to pay for licenses or whatever. So let's go to Google and let's go and start with Ubuntu. Let's go to Ubuntu, downloads, and it's going to take us to the download center for Ubuntu. The current long-term support, that's what LTS stands for, it's version 20. The not long-term support, which I'm not sure how often they update it, but this one is apparently until January of 2020, so I guess every year with these I'm guessing they go from 20 to 21, and this is more like 5 years, I guess. I'm not sure, but you can dig around and see if that's correct or not. But if you don't want the long-term support, you can actually just get this one. The cool thing here is you can also, if you have a Raspberry Pi, and I do have a Raspberry Pi somewhere. Actually, is it in here? It is. It's right in here. If you have a Raspberry Pi, then you can actually download Ubuntu for a Raspberry Pi. You're going to need one of these, micro SD card with a micro SD reader, so you can plug it into your computer and burn that ISO image into the micro SD card, so you can actually boot it from your Raspberry Pi. But since we're not going to be doing that, let's go ahead and click download. And there we go. So I guess we already have it downloaded. It's going to take a while. It's a pretty big file. So for you want to go ahead and click save. Okay, so now that we have that downloaded, let's go and create a new machine. So let's name this YouTube Ubuntu box or something like that, and it's gonna ask you what type of operating system do you want to install here. We're gonna say Linux, and which version you're gonna be using. Since we're gonna be doing Ubuntu, so we're gonna use Ubuntu 64-bit. Let's go to next, and now we're being asked the RAM. How much memory we need to run this. It is recommended to go above a gig, maybe 2 gigs, but don't go over this line here. Maybe half of the green line would be okay, because remember that your system still needs to use RAM, so you don't want to use too much that your host is lagging and freezing because it doesn't have enough memory. So I usually just do 2 gigs, which is 2048. And click next. We're going to be creating a virtual hard disk. If you have one already, and well, once we download Linux, actually not Linux, obviously it's Kali Linux, we are going to be using probably an external one, I believe. I think so. So we will probably not be creating it. We could, but they actually allow you to download a virtual box image, which you don't have to set anything up for that, but that's for Kali Linux. Today, right now, we are going to be creating a virtual hard disk. Go ahead and click on create, and the format doesn't really matter. You can choose VDI, if you're just going to be using VirtualBox. I'm not sure if you use some other one. I'm not sure if it's like you can actually take it from one machine to another. But for now, I usually just use VHD in hopes that I could, but I only use this one, so it makes sense to just use VDI. So let's click next. And we want to make sure that it's dynamically allocated. That means that in your actual hard drive, in your file system for your host operating system, it's gonna take maybe whatever amount the operating system and whatever amount, or the operating system that you installed plus whatever else you need to install is. So let's say that you want eventually to have a 100 gig virtual hard drive, but you only have installed in that virtual hard drive 20 gigs. You will only see that amount, 20 gigs, in your actual storage device. Whereas if you go to fixed size, you're automatically going to get those 100. And I actually prefer dynamically allocated so that it grows as I do stuff in this environment, and not have to have the 100 gigs, let's say. Okay, so let's go ahead and dynamically allocate, and here is where we're gonna tell it where we want to store this. I'm gonna let it choose the default location, and it's gonna ask how many gigabytes do we want. Actually, make sure you actually have enough space in here. So I have 13 gigabytes free here, so maybe I want to move it over here into this one, since I've got 600 there. Maybe I'll do that, and let's move that right here. VM box. Let's do YouTube, Ubuntu box. Let's open and save that there. And then you can just choose whatever size you want. Typically, on Linux, the smallest size, I believe, that you need is about 4 to 8 gigs. You could do 10, maybe 20 even. Let's do 20. 20 gigs sounds good. Unless you're going to be doing a lot more, which really I'm just going to be using Ubuntu and all of that stuff for hacking. So I'm not really going to be taking too much space in here, since I'm not planning on actually develop any games here. So let's go ahead and click create. Okay, so now we have our Ubuntu box. It's just the machine itself. It doesn't have anything installed in it. It's just an empty box. If we were to start it up, it's just what is this? Oh, yeah, it says please select the virtual disk. So I guess let's just choose this one. I think if we choose this one, we can actually install more things into more features. I believe. I'm not sure. I haven't really done it. So I guess it didn't find anything bootable. So yeah, there's no operating system in this right now. Oop. Didn't mean to do that. So let's just, I forget how to, there we go. So if you ever click on it and you don't see your mouse, that's because it's capturing it. So if you click, or yeah, if you just click on the right control button on your keyboard, it should release that, and you should be able to do whatever you want to do. So let's actually, did we save? No. Let me go ahead and start again. I think we took a snapshot. I just wanted to... Oh, yeah, we clicked on save the state. We don't want to do that right now. You would want to if you're working on something and then you have to like shut it down, and if you don't want to lose any progress. The cool thing about a virtual machine is that you can just freeze it in time and continue whenever you want to come back to it. Right now we're just gonna power it off so that we can actually install something in it. So before we actually install anything, let's go into System and let's go into Processors. And by default, it gives you one CPU. I find that to be really slow. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to work with machines that are like 1990s or late 1980s. So I am going to give this one maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 even CPUs. You can enable hardware acceleration for this one. I believe in Windows we have Hyper-V already installed, and if you want to, you could go into your BIOS and enable virtualization to be faster. And I forget what it's called, but your BIOS has that option as well. So let's go to display, and we could give it more memory. Here you would set you know, how many monitors you want, the scale factors for them and whatnot. Here we have our storage. So this is our virtual disk, and this is like a CD. Here we can add an optical drive, and we can tell it to mount anything that we have, like whatever ISO image that we want to mount. I'm gonna choose Ubuntu, and you can see that it's mounted here. So when we go to boot it, it's gonna look inside of this first. It's gonna the BIOS is gonna look for any bootable devices that we have connected, and it's gonna run the first one it finds. What else? Network. You could do different options here. Usually I just use NAT. You could create your own virtual network and have these be isolated in their own virtual network. We're not gonna go into how to do that because I've never done it, but once I do learn how to do that, I'll let you know. If you had, let's say you had a laptop and you're trying to do Wi-Fi attacks or whatever, you need to allow your device, your wireless card to be able to change the promiscuous mode from whatever it is currently to monitor mode, so that it can actually monitor any connections nearby. So I guess you can do that here, and you could actually use or assign a different MAC address. If you don't know what a MAC address is, let me know in the comments, and I can make a video about that. This is pretty much your physical address. Each MAC address is different for every device. We can go into deeper. We could go in deeper to understand more about how networking works and how data goes through the network and finds your MAC address and all of that stuff, because that is very important if you are going to be learning and hacking. And it's also pretty cool to learn. And we can use the adapter that we want. I'm not sure if it's limited to the ones that you have in your system, or if it has any virtual ones. I'm guessing this is a virtual one. But and if you want to change your MAC address, you can. Serial ports, nothing. We don't need anything, any of those things. Share folders, you can actually set up a share folder, which I don't really advise this, because this could be if you're doing hacking, this could be a vulnerability, and people can go from your virtual machine into your actual machine through these. So I tend to not use them. But if you wanted to, you could set up maybe a folder on your host machine to be able to, for this box to read it, and it'll mount it so that it can access it, and you can both read files and transfer files to each other like this. I do not advise that. And then this is the user interface that you can just tweak, and you'll see how it looks like when we get to install and use our system. And that's pretty much it. You could enable this virtual machine to be accessed via remote desktop, I believe, by enabling this and setting up your IP, your port, not IP, and whatever authentication methods you want it to perform. You could do that if you have a VPN in your router. Some routers have a VPN that you can connect to, and that's the way that you should do it. And you shouldn't allow a port through your network for this, because it could be hacked, pretty much. And I want to say that's pretty much it here. I guess you can encrypt your disk and whatnot, but anyway, we don't want to do any of that. Once you are done with all those settings, and once you have included your ISO image of Ubuntu in your controller IDE, let's go ahead and click on Start. Alright, so now it's doing some checks. Alright, so the check is done and is now loading up the Ubuntu installer. It's actually going to ask us if we want to install or test out Ubuntu. Now, the cool thing about these is that you don't have to really install it if you don't want to. Let's say that you wanted to try it out as your operating system without the virtual machine. You could do that. You can just click on try Ubuntu and you don't have to install anything, and you can just use it. But if you want to save stuff in your hard drive, you probably want to install it. So let's click on install and choose your language here. Choose your keyboard layout. So there's two options here: normal installation and minimal installation. If you want all the bloatware that this thing has to offer, such as games and whatnot, media players and whatever, go ahead and do normal installation. I don't like that. I like to have as minimal things as possible, so I'm going to use minimal installation so I can install whatever I want. And we are going to say that we want to download any updates while we're installing Ubuntu so it's faster, and any third-party software from the graphics vendors like NVIDIA and whatever other Wi-Fi hardware we might have. Let's click on continue. Here it's gonna ask us, what do we want to do? How do we want to install this? If we were installing this in a like if we wanted to install it in our system, it would give us another option, I believe, with a dual installation with your Windows machine or Windows operating system. But since we don't have that, we can just click install now. Right here is just telling you, okay, are you sure? This is what's going to happen. We are going to partition the following device, which is our SDA drive here, our hard drive, and we're going to be installing these two partitions. Is that cool with you? And if we go over it, and if everything's cool with us, then we're just going to click continue. Since we don't have anything installed in this hard drive, we don't care. It's like whatever, you know, just do what you do. But if we had something installed like Windows, we want to be careful and double make sure that we're not installing over anything important. Alright, so it wants to know your location, so, or like zone, I guess. Your time zone. Make sure you put in the correct one if you want to get your time and date correct. Click on continue, and now we need to enter our name. So let's do Wulfers Games here. My computer name is gonna be Ubuntu Box, and my username is gonna be what it was. Then it's gonna ask us for a password. And it's gonna ask us, do you want to log in automatically, or do you want to require a password before you log in? Never choose that option, please, because anybody can just turn on your computer and just go into your device. I would suggest you do require your password every time. And let's hit on continue. And now it's installing, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording here so that it'll go by fast. So while this thing is installing, if this is making sense and if you're liking this video, go ahead and subscribe. Make sure to click on that like button if you like this video, and hit on that notification bell to be notified when we post new videos. It's almost done. Okay, so our installation has completed, and we need to restart now our computer or this virtual machine. As we are doing that, we also need to make sure that, and it's going to tell us right now, but we need to make sure that we unplug or remove our Ubuntu ISO image. You can either click remove disk from virtual drive or just uncheck this guy. If we just do that, you can, oh, I guess not. Maybe remove, sure, I guess force unmount. And just press enter once you're done. And now down here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but down here you shouldn't have that blue disk anymore if you did it properly. And we're booting into Ubuntu. So that's pretty cool. There's a few things that are gonna happen once you boot in. You're gonna be prompted to put in your password. So choose the user that you want to log in as. It's only one user. So choose that one, put in your password, and log in. Then we are gonna need to make sure that we have our system up to date. And with the options that we actually checked, this should be well, I guess this is going to happen. Do you want... if you're going to be using this for your personal stuff, go ahead if you want to. I don't like it, so I'm going to skip that. If you want to have this, you have to have an account with them. So we need to first put in our password, and then it's going to be like, oh, signing or register. You can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to skip that. I'm going to say no here because I don't want to send any system information over the network, but if you don't mind, go ahead and click whatever you want there. And location services, anything that tracks you, probably not going to want. So I'm just going to say no. And here you can go ahead and pre-install anything that you want. We can do that a different way. So we're just going to click done here. And we see that we have an update for our version. So all we gotta do is install now. Alternatively, we could run something in the terminal. Okay, so yeah, this was asking us for our password here. Let's go ahead and click cancel so it doesn't do an update. And let's go in the terminal. And in here, let's do sudo apt update. Put in your password. And you can see that it says 219 packages can be upgraded. So this is what that system that we just ran before we went into the terminal. When I said, you know what, cancel that. Let's not do it this way. Let's do it through the command line. That's what it was doing as well. It was trying, like, when we run this update, we are asking this apt package, or I believe it's aptitude. Is it called aptitude, or is aptitude a different one? That is a very good question. Let me check that. I guess aptitude is a different one. If we do apt I guess we don't have aptitude installed by default here, but we do have apt, which that's our it's our command line interface for the package management system for Linux. And what we want to do, so we ran sudo, let's do it again, sudo, if we type right, apt update, and it's going to read, it's going to pretty much go through all of these repositories, and it's going to list, read the list of packages that we have, and it's going to look for to see if we have anything that we can upgrade, if any versions changed or anything like that, and we can see that we did. So how do we and we can look at the list here that it got. So if we do sudo apt list upgradable, it's going to show you everything that it wants us to update, all of this stuff. Okay, cool. So how do we actually update? To actually update our system, we need to do sudo apt upgrade. And it's going to say, okay, we have 219 that are going to be upgraded, and we have one newly installed, which I'm not sure which one it was, but it needs us, it says that it's going to increase the size of our hard drive. Is that okay with you? It needs more space, so we're just going to say, yeah, go ahead, use whatever you need and install our updates, pretty much. So let's let that run. Okay, so we are ready. It has properly installed all of the updates, and if we want to, we could do sudo apt update again, and it should tell us everything is updated. You don't need to do anything else. There we go. All packages are up to date. Clear, exit. The application password key has close as let's do send. I don't know what happened there, but that has never happened before. Sorry. So let's go to the updater and see if it has any updates for us. It shouldn't, because it's using the same system, but let's see if it does. Okay, it says the computer needs to restart to finish installing the updates. So it didn't find anything, but it noticed that it installed updates. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's restart now. I guess a good idea every time you, or when you have like updates to, because we had some updates for the X server. If you don't know what X server is pretty much the graphics server service that the Linux kernel uses. All right, so we're back in. Let's log it back in.
I think I just messed up. There we go.
Okay, so right now we have a tiny little box here that we don't care about. We want to be able to go full screen and actually have a decent thing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control F. That's going to bring us into a full screen view. But notice that our window is still pretty small. To do that, to change that, we just got to go in here, go into display settings, and they don't have the proper things for a proper resolution for my screen. So we can choose that, but it might be too big. Like we can't even see that button down there that they have. So just play around with these settings until you see something that you like. Unfortunately, I'm not sure why they don't allow you to do 1920 by 1080. Unfortunately, it's really frustrating. We may be able to change it in the settings for the VM, but I didn't see anything there. You can also change it so that we use, well, not night light. If we go to appearance, we can go to the dark mode, and we can choose to auto hide this dock over here. You can choose the icon size that you want, and that's pretty much it. You can use the setup of VPN here, proxies, but you can also do that through the command line. And yeah, so I guess in the next video we're gonna be looking into Kali Linux, because this video is already about 1 hour long. Maybe a little bit less with editing. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and okay. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this video. Anything else you would like to see as part of this series for Linux. We are going to be talking about the file system and how it's structured. We're going to be talking about what a bootloader is, what it uses, what a kernel is, what the different types of window managers that exist. Right now we are using GNOME, I believe, and we're going to be exploring Linux, really, learning how installation works, how apt works, how aptitude works, how pip works. If you don't know what pip is Python installer package program thing. Then we also have a Debian package manager, or DPKG or something like that, which aptitude runs that, I believe, or apt runs that one, and so on and so forth. We're going to be looking into those things. So if there's anything else that you want me to cover with Linux, let me know in the comments below. And I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Do all those YouTube algorithm things. It really helps this channel, and it helps people find me. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Stay safe.